Hello, and welcome to the Soul Shaking Love podcast. I'm your host, Coach Valerie Green from CoachValerieGreen.com. And in this podcast, I really bring you expert teachers to help you feel a mind, body, and spirit connection with yourself and your true love. So today, I'm really excited to bring you Mike Goldstein, and he's going to talk about how to get a great guy in 60 days and specifically highlight online dating strategy, which I'm super excited about. So hi, Mike.
Hey, Valerie. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited about this topic because so you really focus on the data and the science. And so Mike is a private dating coach, a public speaker, and an author. He's appeared on the Today Show, Reader's Digest, and numerous other media platforms. And he really focuses on the data science to ensure that with 83% accuracy, his clients obtain relationships, and the data and the nitty gritty. And so I'm excited to help you really clarify what are the best strategies for women to use to really get a guy in 60 days.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. And just so everyone knows, all the stuff we're going to go into is not me kind of guessing with the answers. It's all based on millions of data points, which I have access to that come from Match, eHarmony, and OkCupid. So this will all be math and science driven for factual ways to be way more efficient in how you date.
Which is awesome. And I love this interview because we were talking before, and with my clients, I focus so much on the emotional piece, removing the inner blocks. And I do talk about strategy. But I feel like Mike is a better expert on the nitty gritty. And so I really just want to dive in and say, I mean, first of all, just what are the best dating sites for the best results for different demographics? You know, I mean, younger people versus older people, is there a difference? And, you know, people that are really looking for a serious relationship.
Yeah, so for folks that are probably like above age 40, age 45, if you're doing the right strategy, you're going to be way more effective on the traditional sites, not the apps. Specifically, if you're like affluent business professional, Match.com is the best, period. Even if you're over 60, over 70, it's still Match.com. Don't go to the ones that are geared towards older folks. Match has really stolen that demographic too. So Match.com for that. If you're younger, like 20s, 30s, you're probably going to have your best luck on Bumble and Hinge. It's still a tough one, but you can get it done on there. And then for folks like Plenty of Fish, Zoosk, those are going to be a little less business professionals. So if you are a business professional, I'd stay away from those.
Right. Or like I've heard that OkCupid is for more alternative relationships, right? So there might be professionals there, but you have to be more open-minded and be willing to weed through the stuff that might not be traditional, right?
Yeah, OkCupid's great for that. Like they were the first to kind of offer, trans, bi, whatever. It's just a lot easier on there. And then their questioning kind of asks you what you're kind of into. It even goes as in depth of like, are you into BDSM? And a lot of things like that are less traditional, if you will.
Very specific. And I mean, I agree about Match, and specifically because the people who put a lot of energy into their profile, you can really put the specifics in an artful way of who you are as a person, your values, your vision for a relationship, right? In a fun way, of course, in a light way, which I'm sure, will lead into my other questions about how you write your profile. But I imagine that is what it makes it harder about the apps, right? When you have 300 characters, what are you really going to say that reveals your deepest, longing and relationship that's going to bring the conversation to a deeper level and weed out the wrong people, right? Is that what makes it harder with the apps?
Yeah. I mean, Valerie, that's perfectly said. The whole reason I'm taking my over 40 clients onto Match.com is if we're going to window shop for our once in a lifetime partner, we want as much information as possible so that we're efficient. We don't want to be going on dates that aren't the right person. So the apps, it's a lot tougher.
Right, exactly. It's just more terse and it is more image based, right? Although I think the research shows that the image really, I mean, people choose based on image anyway, right? But at the same time, I still advocate that what you put in your profile makes a big difference. What you write about yourself makes a big difference in terms of attracting the right people and weeding out the wrong people, right? So, what is the best way to write your profile and the best way to choose your pictures and all of that?
Yeah, I first want to just say your point's absolutely right. Like, so what we know is men actually have 25% more receptors in their eyes. So we
Wow.
always, like coaches always say, men are visual, men are visual. It's true, they are. And so as a man who's looking for a relationship though, he does look at the picture and he makes a binary selection on, am I attracted to her, am I not? This is a man looking for a relationship. The man not looking for a relationship, he does a 0 to 10 scale and then wants to get as high on the 10 scale as he can because that's all he's interested in.
Right.
Relationship guy though, binary, am I attracted? Yes. Then relationship guy reads the entire profile and really wants to know, can this be a fit? Non-relationship guy probably doesn't read much of the profile because he doesn't care. He's just, trying to have some sort of physical connection probably.
Right. So you won't weed out the wrong person. I mean, wrong meaning not looking for a relationship if you don't really go deep in your profile.
Correct. So the strategy I like to make this very easy is first, the headline is 6 things I can't live without. So put that in the summary, because the summary you read, you're like, what should I write here? So 6 things I can't live without. Then you really need to go deep. Like a lot of folks will be like, iPhone, a cheesesteak, like whatever. These are great answers, but we need to know the why behind them and get more specific. You want to be really granular in terms of specificity. So iPhone, what is the application? What is the thing on the iPhone? So one person said that to me that was a client, and she's like, well, my sister's in Afghanistan, so the iPhone allows us to text each other and to call each other and stay in contact with my sister who's at war. So then that kind of got you to know this person, like, oh, they've got a sister at war and it's really important to stay in contact. So then being specific. So Valerie, once you do the 6 things,
right. Well, so I want to ask you a question about that, because part of the specificity, I imagine a lot of people don't want to be vulnerable. So you might not guide her to say that she's a sister at war in her profile, but you would guide her to say something like, my phone's really important because it enables me to stay across with family across the world, right? So family connection is really important. And you want to say that kind of thing in your profile, right? Because that's the deeper meaning behind the phone.
Yeah, I mean, if the person's up for it, the more vulnerable, the better. Like, I'd rather see the more specific. If you're not the type of person that feels comfortable putting that information out there, obviously don't. But yeah, the more, the better. Because then people can make their own interpretations. Like, we don't want to spell out like, hey, I love my family. We want to show them that you love your family,
Yes.
what you
So
do.
give an example as specific as possible. I mean, I think one of the other principles that I teach that I'm sure you do too is show, don't tell, right? That like, oh, I use my iPhone to connect to my sister who's at war on the other side of the world, and it's invaluable. That's an invaluable connection, and it nourishes me on a deep level, right? And to use feelings language, and if they're a woman, of course, and they want to be in their feminine energy, to use feelings language, right? And sensory language, like if you were reading a novel, to really bring people into the story, right?
Yes, well said.
And I'm sure that when you coach people to write their profile, that you use those principles, because right, that's what helps people stand out.
That's correct.
Yeah. All right. So what other distinctions really make a great profile?
So you're going to write your 6 things you can't live without, which will make you stand out a bit. And then we want to see if you kind of live a similar life. So you're going to do on a typical Friday night. So I usually start off with like when you stop working.
Right.
I think this really shows off work-life balance. So, oh, I stop at 3, or oh, I stop at 8. And then what it looks like after that. Like then I cook dinner, or then I meet my friends for dinner. I get takeout. Or then I go, have a drink at a restaurant, or I stay home and watch Netflix. Then I'm in bed at midnight. Then I read a book for a few hours. or maybe it's I'm in bed at 10, then I wake up in the morning at 6 and I go on a 6-mile run. So you want to see what lifestyle fits. Like, are you a morning person? Are you a night person? Are you into athletics? Are you into cooking? So all these things get shown in that.
Exactly. And specific examples, right? Because that really does make someone feel like they're getting a window into your world.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's like they're getting to know what it's like to be on a weekend with you. And then that's what's going to build the connection and make them want to reach out.
Absolutely. And folks are either going to be like, ooh, that's what I do, or I can't envision that life. Let me move on to the next person.
Right, what you want if they're not the right person for you, right? That's how you weed out the wrong person, is you get more specific about the things that are important to you, which is great. And so what about pictures then?
Yeah, so pictures. Obviously, this is very important. Like, even if you have Shakespeare written in your profile, if we don't have a good picture, they're not going to read the Shakespeare.
Right.
Most important thing, this is based on millions of data points. The most important thing, your face. You have to be the appropriate distance from the camera. So your face, this, needs to make up 8 to 15% of the surface area of the whole photograph. So too close, too far. This is going to be 8 to 15%. And believe it or not, this drastically changes how many messages you get.
Very specific.
Yes.
8 to 15%. All right.
And so there's coaches out there that'll tell you, like, have a headshot that's kind of close. They're 100% wrong. Do not listen to that. They don't know what they're talking about. 8 to 15% performs. So make sure you're that distance from the camera. No headshots.
Like for your main profile picture.
Yeah, for all your profile pictures. So if you choose like 6 to 8 pictures.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, none of them that close.
And what about outfits and background and all that?
So obviously you want to look nice. I'm not a super fashion guy, so I would not advise.
Right, you're not the person to talk about clothing. Okay, but
yeah,
you know, just something that really
fits your body.
Yeah, that's what I always say, is something that is classy, that really highlights your body. You want something that shows the shape of your body, you know, because that is important, but obviously something that you feel comfortable in, that shows off your style, and you know, that you feel is respectful, that you feel makes you look beautiful. You know, I recommend that women work with an image consultant if they really want to pick that out. And there's tons of stylists that specialize in online dating, and it is important.
Yeah, I mean, if we got to talk about data, I know that, like, if women show off cleavage, for example, they will get more messages. But we have to look, you know, it's not just about data. It's then, all right, you're getting more messages, but are you getting the type of messages you want?
Right. It's
so
not
maybe
just
you want to be
right.
Yeah.
Quality versus quantity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like shape, but not, you know, being showy about it, I guess, is the right way to put it.
Yes.
Because a lot of people, I think, go the other direction and say, well, you know, I don't want to show off my body, but I mean, the shape of your body matters, but not, you know, you don't want that to be what's highlighting the picture. You want to really show off your inner beauty. And I always say too, and I wonder what you think about this, some pictures with a more romantic look, you know, the way you would want to look on a date. And then other pictures showing activities in your life. You know, if you say in your profile that you like dancing or that you like hiking, right, show pictures of you doing those things so that they, you know, like a picture is worth 1,000 words. Do you agree with that?
Yes, but let's be careful. The most important thing, since we're dealing with men, is you got to look good.
Right.
So if you happen to, like, if you love dancing and you have a dancing picture that you don't happen to look that great in, I'd rather the picture where you're just standing there doing nothing where you look good. But with that being said, I think what we're looking for is kind of like an 80-20 rule. So 80% of your pictures are just focused on showing that you're gorgeous. And then 20% are maybe showing off your cool activities that you enjoy doing.
Okay.
Now, part of the 20%, let's say you're kayaking or dancing and you're really far away from the camera and we can't see you. That's okay. because we've got the 80% that show what you look like. And then the 20% are like, oh, here's kayaking, here's dancing, here's biking, playing chess. Can't see the person that well, but so beautiful. And look at this amazing lifestyle we could have. We could be doing all these great activities together.
Exactly. Yeah, they're really getting to visualize what it's like to be with you, which is another thing, right? I think that there's some no-nos, right? That people should avoid. Like I would say, when a man looks at a picture, he is kind of imagining what it's like for him to be in that picture, right, with you. And so, would you recommend against women putting pictures with a lot of their girlfriends in it? Because he might be visualizing himself there and not just with you, or like, what would you advise against?
Yeah, great question. Absolute no is men. Like, assuming you're heterosexual, no men in the picture. I don't care if it's your brother, your cousin. We don't want to see that. We don't want competition. So no men, period.
Mm-hmm.
Try to not have girlfriends either. If you're like, Mike, I don't have any pictures. I'm not going to get a professional photo shoot. I've got girlfriends in the pictures. The only way this is acceptable, and I hate to be mean, is if the girlfriends are really, really unattractive.
Okay.
That make you look better.
I know there's no good way to say that. It's so hard. I mean, because I can feel women out there going like, how can you tell? Like, how can you judge a woman based on attractiveness? That's so objectifying. But I mean, I think what you're saying is going on is just that a guy is imagining himself in the picture. And so if he's imagining himself in the picture, he's going to imagine himself with all of those women, and he doesn't know any of you. Right. So he's going to be imagining connecting with all of those women, not just you. So you want to highlight that he should look at when he's looking at your profile. You want him to highlight looking at you, not all these other women too. It distracts his attention away from you. I think that's like how I would put it.
Yeah, I mean, like, think about a realtor. They show you one house, even though, there's like 100 other houses. If you get distracted, if there's 100 houses, you can't make a decision.
Right.
One house.
If the realtor showed you the entire block and was like, all of these houses are for sale, I mean, not to put it as an object, but wouldn't your attention be drawn to all of them? And when you're writing your profile, you really want to highlight you.
Absolutely. 100%.
So that's great. All right. I mean, what other distinctions would you really consider in your profile, or do you want to move on to the overall plan?
Yeah, I think we can move on at this point.
Great. So what about like a big question I hear when women are reaching out to men is, should I wait for the men to reach out to me, or should I reach out to them?
Great question. 100% you want to reach out to men. And I built a system 10 years ago that is the most successful system in the industry and the most efficient system. So I'm going to outline high level how to do that. Is that okay, Valerie?
Yeah.
So my system is called 50-12-1, also called the bond method, because I learned it from an English guy, and then it's been moved. Anyway, 50-12-1. What I have women doing is we message 50 men, asking them on a date. We expect about 12 of them to say yes. And then every week we pick one of them. So 50-12-1. And then we repeat this system 6 to 8 times. So you only need to meet 6 to 8 men. And then you find someone you like. And it's that easy.
Wow. All right. Where'd you get that formula from?
It took a while. Like, I didn't have the numbers at first. Like, we tested it over many years. And then
Amazing.
Eventually I realized this is approximately the metrics. Now, of course, sometimes we send 30, sometimes we send 200. It just depends on, how our profile is, how our pictures are and everything, and what city we live in.
Right.
Yeah. But
that's great.
50-12-1.
Okay. And so what are these, what kinds of things do these initial messages say when the women are asking a man out on a date?
Yeah. So the great news for women, that are watching this are probably like, I get a decent amount of messages. Like, I get anywhere from 2 to 10 a day, or whatever you get. And you probably ignore a lot of them and you're like, I want a guy who read my profile and writes something really specific and clearly connects with me. Men, women don't need to do that. As a man, we don't get any messages. We get very, very few. So we read everything, and you can write anything generic and we will probably respond as long as we're okay with your pictures and profile. So what I have women writing is just anything. If you want to write, hi, how are you? Hope your week's going well. When you get a moment, let me know if you'd like to grab a coffee or grab a drink or go on a walk, whatever, suits your lifestyle. And then you sign off. That's all you got to do. And it works like a charm.
Great. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think that we can get into analysis paralysis and not know what to say and not reach out. I mean, I guide women to just find something that you have in common, point out something that, in his profile that you also connect with, and share a little bit about you, and, ask him a question. And if he likes you, he'll answer it. It's kind of like, what would you say to somebody at a cocktail party?
Yeah. I mean, just to be clear, so the process you just talked about will perform a little bit better than my generic message, 100%. But I find it's not worth the time spent. So that's why we do a copy and paste. Like once you write one message, we send that to 50 people, the exact same message, just because I only want people to do online dating for 30-minute clips 3 times a week. So this whole process should be done in an hour and a half a week instead of spending more time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great, which was going to be my next question. How long per week? And that sounds totally manageable.
It's a lot better. Like if you have to read the profile and then write something, we don't do any of that. We just send it up front. So, sorry, I should go backwards.
Yeah.
When we send a message, right, we don't know if they're going to respond. We don't know if they're interested. So we're going to spend 0 upfront time reading profiles or really examining people. We're going to send these messages quick. And then when they respond and we get from our 50 down to our 12, that's when we invest our time in reading profiles, reading messages, looking at pictures. So that's why we're saving so much time. So then at our 12, when we're selecting our one, that's where we invest time and effort.
That makes so much sense. It's very strategic. And I can imagine that, people don't want to spend that much time in online dating. And so the way you're presenting it sounds very efficient and very doable.
Yeah, I mean, I just want online dating to be this big like math science experiment. And then the fun is when you're on the date, when you're getting to know them. Because like everyone I talk to does not like online dating. Like 95% of people go, this sucks, I don't like it.
Yeah, exactly. People just want to find the person.
Yeah, we just want the person. We want to be on dates. We want to be laughing, eating good food.
Enjoying the time, right? Enjoying the connection, exactly.
But if we make it like this fun game where we're just like, all right, here we go. Let's message the 50. Ooh, 12. Okay, now let's pick one. That's not so bad.
Yeah, you're kind of gamifying it. Which does make it fun, right? I mean, that is what the research shows. And so, okay, so you send the same message, and it's just something like, hey, I liked your profile. I feel we have a connection. This is a little bit about me, send, right? And then, so how do you determine which guys get a response and ultimately an in-person date from there?
Yeah, so obviously the women who are watching this know what they want and who they are. So I want them to pick based on their criteria. But I want to put it in order for them of priority. So first, the profile is the most important piece, what they wrote. So prioritize that as almost like 80% of the importance. Then use like 15% for the message. So how did they respond? Was it coherent? Did it seem okay? Is this something you could vibe with? And then 5% is the picture. Does that make sense?
Okay. So basically, yeah, you're asking, well, in terms of their profile, how to tell like the guys that respond back, who to keep dialoguing with, based on who they say they are and like if they want the same things. And less about how they look, right? Because you want to be able to meet. I always say chemistry is just really based on in person. If you don't like, if you're not repulsed by his pictures, right? Because like a lot of chemistry is based on smell. I mean, how are you going to tell? It's until you meet the person, right? So I agree with that. And what about in terms of like what he responds back and the depth of what he responds back?
Yeah, so that's the 15%. The reason the profile is so important is that's the thing where he should have put a lot of effort and time into. And if he wrote that well and there's a lot of things in common, that's good. And he had time to curate that. The message is quite a bit less important because he doesn't quite know where this is heading. So maybe he's going to put in less investment. So if the profile looks really good, you like everything's aligned where it looks like you guys could have a connection. I'd really like to see you give that guy a chance. Unless the message is just total incoherent babble, then sure.
Like, what are you doing? I'm going out drinking, binging with my buddies all weekend.
Yeah.
So okay, no, that makes sense. So let me make sure I understand, because have you really discovered that the guys that don't put a lot of energy into their initial profile are not as serious?
Correct. If there's no effort in the profile, it's a low percentage shot that they're looking for a relationship and they're serious.
So guys, if they're looking for a relationship, they'll write in their profile several paragraphs around what they're looking for in a relationship, who they are as a person, what they value in life, right? And that's less important than the depth they go to in the message, because they're just building a connection with you. But you should see that they've put a lot in their profile to keep messaging with him.
Yeah, that's 100% perfect. Yep.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, because he doesn't know whether he can invest in you yet. And would you say, to ask him a couple of deep questions to see how he responds, but obviously to answer, I always say answer the question with the same level of depth that you want him to. So I might say something like, what are you most excited about lately? And then I might say, I'm excited about, teaching an authentic relating workshop in a couple of weeks to build community where we just moved, because community is one of the most important things to me in my life. And what about you? What are you excited about lately? And then, should I look to see if he responds with the same level of depth since I'm offering it?
Yeah, I think that's pretty helpful in narrowing down your 12. If you decide to do maybe 2 questions, I wouldn't go much longer than that because, we don't want to do the pen pals and we want to be efficient.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, if you can get some good in-depth answers and hopefully it's mirroring kind of what energy you're putting out, that's a really good sign. Yes.
Right, exactly. And then to try to switch it to a phone call and a date, is there anything you want to say about that in this strategy, or is that kind of something you do custom when you work with people?
It is custom, but I can explain the theory behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you happen to be a client if you happen to be running this system and you're getting bombarded where like instead of 50-12-1, you're getting like 50-30. And this happens like 50-30 or 50-20, where you're like, whoa, there's a lot of options. And then you're looking at the 20 or 30 and you're like, realistically, there's like 2 to 5 that look pretty good here. Maybe you decide before you invest time on a date that you want to do a 15-minute phone call. Mm-hmm. And so you invite them like, hey, would you like to hop on the phone for 15 minutes to get to know each other? And if that goes well, we can set up the date. What's very important is you stick your guns about this 15-minute thing and you actually execute that, because I don't want you to get bombarded with these phone calls, because what I see happen is a lot of folks end up doing like hour-long phone calls. You don't want to do that. You want to get in, see if there's something there, and if there is, get out. So then he's excited about the date, you're excited about the date, and there's still a lot more to learn about each other.
Exactly. Because like we said, you don't really know if there's chemistry until you meet. So you don't want to speak on the phone and build up this connection and expectation about what you're going to feel when you meet in person. You do want to keep the phone call short. I agree. So do you not encourage people to have a phone call with everyone, or is it really just custom?
So yeah, great point. So the folks that have a ton of options do the phone call. The folks that are having less options, I say just get on the date. Um, because once again, the guy's visual, and you're going to also be visual, and you just get there and see if it's good. And if you're finding you don't have that many options with your 50-12-1, send 100, send 150, send 200. That's the next step. So then you have a good amount of options. So then when you are going on this one date, you should be pretty excited. Like, whoa, there's like this much, like,
Right. You really narrowed it down.
yeah, like I'm excited because we have all these things in common. So you don't mind spending an hour, hour and a half. I mean, of course, sometimes these dates are going to flop, but once again, it's still part of our math problem. I'm only expecting you need to meet 6 to 8 men under this system to find someone you like.
Right, exactly. And I mean, I really think that that helps making it, it's not a strict numbers game. I do think, there's strategy involved, but it, makes it more of a game so that we're not taking it as personally when it doesn't work out with, most of these people, because we know it's not supposed to work out with most of these people. We're only trying to narrow it down to one, and that takes the rejection out of it. It makes it more of a game, and I like that.
Yeah, I mean, the older we get, the more clear of what we truly want is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be more and more difficult to really find that person. So yeah, just be patient. And I like treating it as a numbers game. Like obviously there's a lot of emotion tied to this, but I specifically, like if I go on a bad date, like I can get like a little sad about it. And I know a lot of people
Yeah,
do, but then I
exactly.
come back to like, wait a second, that was one, or that was date
Right.
two. I need 4
Exactly.
more of those. So just get some more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I mean, exactly. It makes it more of a game, and it takes the paradigm of rejection out of it, and it feels so much better, So I do think it's important, as women, that we feel our feelings, but that we don't get caught in them, that we see the big picture and the higher perspective. And that's what this game allows us to do, which is beautiful. I do wonder, I mean, what are the safety precautions that you advocate that women take when they're meeting men, by giving phone numbers, or like, should you always meet in a place where someone knows where you are, that kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, 100% you need to meet at a public place. That's just like safety 101. So
Public place, of course, but I go back and forth around, like, if you're meeting in a public place, should you have a girlfriend know where you are? Or if it's a public place, is that not important?
I mean, if I think everyone's comfort level is different, but if you feel comfortable, telling your girlfriend, or even giving your girlfriend like ID of your cell phone, or location ID, so
Location,
they can
right?
see where your phone. Yeah, I mean, do whatever feels comfortable for you. Yeah.
Right, right. And phone numbers. I mean, there's so many comfort levels with phone numbers. If you're, you get like a Google voice number or something that's not your real number that forwards, or there's these apps that change your number.
Yeah. So if for the ladies that want a fake number, if you will, or a number that forwards to your cell phone, just type in Google Voice number in Google, and you can go get the fake number, if you will, if you want
Yeah.
that.
Right. Google Voice, I think, is great, because then, I mean, you can give everyone that number, even if your number changes and it forwards to your number, but it's not your number. So look into that. Well, that's wonderful. I mean, I really think that this has been a wealth of information with strategy, because so many people get bogged down in the fact that online dating is so overwhelming. And there are such a small percentage of people that we're all attracted to, right? And as it should be, but it's so visceral when you look at all these people and you're like, I'm not attracted to most of them. And we really need a strategy to help make the success evident, so that we don't get bogged down in the feeling of it, that we can really keep our eyes on the goal. And it sounds like this strategy really helps you make women find the man that they're really looking for, that really wants the kind of relationship that she does.
Yeah, absolutely. And can I hammer home one like visual component
Yeah.
with some science? So for most women, like if you're building a top 5 list of things you need in a person, most women are not going to include something physical about the guy. If you do include something physical, by all means, go chase that. But if your top 5 things you need do not have something physical, when you're looking at these pictures on a 0 to 10 scale, I want you to select a 4 and higher. And if you remember grade school, a 4 is still an F. So that is not an attractive man. That is a 4. That's an F. Even a 6, I think a 6 is a D minus, right? That's a 60.
Right.
So reason being, there was a science experiment, Valerie, done, I don't know, maybe like 20 or 30 years ago at this point, where they gave women pictures of men and said, rate them on a 0 to 10 scale. And so let's say a woman rated a guy a 4. They then let them speak to the guy for an hour and then re-rate his attractiveness. If the guy had a great personality, the 4 could move all the way to an 8.
Totally.
If it was a 4 that had a terrible personality, the 4 went to a 0.
Yep.
So what we found in this experiment is women could move men 4 full basis points of attractiveness based on conversation.
It's so true. It's so true. And pheromones. I mean, there's so many factors in attractiveness. You know, it's so hard to tell how attractive someone is in a two-dimensional picture. You really need to spend time with the person, you know. So that's what I say too. I completely agree. I think, you know, as long as you're not like repulsed by him.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at the picture and he's like a no, then of course. But if he's like a maybe, you know, then give him a chance, because the maybe could become a yes when you actually meet him.
Absolutely. And I encourage men to give women more of a chance too.
Exactly. Yeah, it does work both ways.
Yes, 100%. And
sure.
As a man, I can tell you, you know, there's been plenty of times where I wasn't necessarily that physically attracted. I show up on the date and the personality and the vibe was great. And all of a sudden I'm like, this is the sexiest woman I've ever been, you know, in contact with.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And that really hits it home too for women. We put so much energy into how we look, right? And of course that's important. And I do notice, I mean, when I really focus on self-care and making myself feel good emotionally, spiritually, you know, taking care of my body, then, you know, I'm going to feel more attractive. And then I'm going to appear more attractive to you because it's my inner beauty, you know. And so that's of course what my podcast is about too, is the outer reflects the inner. But you know, and the same thing with you, like the reason why a 4 goes up to an 8 when a woman meets a man is the same reason, because you're purpose driven and you're present and you're empathic and you're curious, and you know, you want like a real connection with me, and I can tell, and you're interested, and right, like that's what makes it jump up to an 8. And so, you know, it's all about the inner work and the outer work. But I love this focus on the strategy. I think this is really the way to stay motivated, is to have a strategy. And so I know that you do have a free gift, 4 signs that he's falling in love. And so talk more about that and how can that add to this strategy?
Yeah, I just wanted to help all the ladies watching this with something that's more black and white. Like I try to give dating advice that's black and white and not gray, even though dating is very gray. But these 4 signs with 97.5% certainty will show you if the guy's actually into you. I don't know if you can see this rhino, but I have this rhino because the rhino for me, like, can you see the rhino, Valerie?
Oh, right. Yes, he's a little wooden one. Mm-hmm. And
yeah,
on top of the dresser back there. Mm-hmm.
So like the people that follow me on YouTube, like call me Rhino because I protect women, just like the rhino protects like the female rhino and the children. He just stands there all day and just like protects everyone. That's what the rhino does in the jungle.
I feel touched by that. Mm-hmm.
So that's what my free gift is. Like it drives me nuts when women get hurt by a man that's kind of gaslighting them or not really into them. So I built this free gift because now there's no guesswork. It's like, is he doing these 4 things? Yes, cool. If not, get rid of him because he's not that into you. And I want to be your rhino protecting you. And that's what this gift is. Also on this gift, once you sign up, if you're like, Mike, like I'm dying to work with you. I don't know how the heck to do this 50-12-1 thing. Like I want you to do it with me. And it sounds like it'd be a lot more fun if someone's doing it with me and supporting me. There'll be a way to sign up for coaching with me right after you click the free gift. So if you want that, You can get on my calendar and talk to me for free for 15 minutes and we'll see if it's right. But I'd love to support you if you would like someone. So then when you're going on, of your 6 to 8 dates, if 5 of them, if 2 of them stink, we can kind of laugh about it and then be on your good ones until you get your partner.
It does really help with that, right? I mean, it's so easy to get discouraged when you're doing this all on your own. It helps so much to have somebody holding your hand and, commiserate with you for a bit, but then help to bring you out of it and say, all right, he's only one of, the one of 12 that you clarified. I mean, maybe another one you can set up will be better and really get you back to the big picture. So helpful. And that's what really helps people stay in the game. And some people want more support to stay in the game because that's ultimately the only way to fail is to give up, right?
Yeah. What I've found is people that stick to my methodology, it's got 100% success rate as long as you don't quit.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's up to you to clarify what kind of support do you need to stay in the game, because that's the thing. I mean, it really does take a belief that this is what I tell my clients, and I'm sure you agree, that if you really long for a relationship, if that's the deep longing in your heart, it's because there's a man out there, or I mean, to really bring it home to anyone, there's the right partner for you, no matter who you're into, who's also looking for you. Otherwise you wouldn't long for it so deeply. And to really believe that, and therefore the only way you can fail is if you quit, because it's not just you looking for them, it's them looking for you too. And if you're doing your part, then it'll eventually happen as long as you stay in the game. And so that's why we support people in staying in the game.
100%. I cannot agree more. There is a lid for every pot. I don't care if you're 400 pounds, if you're 75 years old, if you're 30 years old, you're skinny, you're fat, whatever you are, there's a lid for every pot. And there's someone who really, really desires exactly what you bring to the table.
Exactly.
And we've seen that, you've been doing this for 15 years. I've been doing this over 10. Everyone gets what they want as long as they have the mindset to go get it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so that's why we do what we do, because we've seen it happen. And so I really appreciate what you have to bring to the table. And I encourage women to get your free gift, because we really need these concrete signs. And I agree. I mean, it's great, but you need a map, even if the map is different for everyone, you need somewhere to start. And so if we have these 4 signs that he's falling in love or not, then we can then check with our intuition. He said this thing, is that really true? And you have something to go by. And so I really encourage everyone watching to get Mike's free gift, and to really have that help you to clarify if the man you're talking to is the right one, and to reach out to Mike for coaching if you want that kind of really customized support to stay in the game. And thank you so much for sharing all this knowledge and wisdom with us today.
Thank you for having me, Valerie. You ask great questions and you're fabulous.
Thank you.